Hello, welcome. Louise here from Boost Your Career, and welcome to Boost Talk, a series of conversations with amazingly generous women who are willing to share their tips, their strategies and their stories and experience around career enhancement. Today I was in conversation with Kathy Dodd. She is a career coach, a networker extraordinaire, and someone with whom I had a fabulous conversation with all things about future-proofing your career, making sure that you develop lifelong habits that will sustain and create a very powerful workplace profile. We talked about networking, we talked about trust-based relationships, and Kathy talked about something that I wasn't expecting. She was talking about loyalty in business and understanding the business that you work in, regardless of the time frame you're there. So it's a really interesting conversation. I know you'll enjoy it. And please like, please share, and head on over to our website, boostyourcareer.com.au. Talk to you soon. Bye. Well, hello, Louise here, and this is Boost Talk. Welcome. Today I'm in conversation with Kathy Dodd, who is a career coach and a networker extraordinaire is how I'm going to introduce you. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. It's absolutely delightful to be here.
Lovely. Now, Kathy describes her passions as coaching, mentoring, and assisting people to find their best careers. So a conversation with you in such a thing as Boost Talk based on Boost Your Career seems a fairly natural fit to me. And I am so happy that you've decided to join us today. So thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure.
And I know that we're going to talk about future-proofing careers. So Kathy and I had a conversation a couple of days ago around there are so many different aspects to creating positive, lifelong, sustainable habits that are crucial to future-proofing careers, that we thought it'd be a great idea to have a Boost Talk around what that means and how we engage in future-proofing. I talk about in Boost Your Career, and I push about this lifelong obsession with developing and career development, trusting relationships, your profile, broad networking. And I could think of no one better than to speak about that than Kathy Dodd, who, as I said in my introduction, I've seen her networking for very many years now, and seriously, you're incredibly proficient at that. And it's based on something even more fundamental, something around profiles and something around trusting relationships. So I thought we might start with talking about your experience around what's the value of actively building a sustainable workplace profile.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
A big question.
It is a big question.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it depends on the actual, obviously, the business that you're going into, and whether it's matches your personality and your skills, and you have to be aware of that when you go into a new business and start connecting with people. Basically, I've found that because of my personality, it's not difficult for me to actually build relationships with people. But I sometimes feel that you have to get to know the business first and take it, not slowly, but be aware that you need to fit in with the business. It may not suit you long term, but when you begin to get to know people in a business, I think you have to take it slowly, take it steadily, try to figure out who's who in the zoo, and make sure that you understand where people are coming from. And I guess that's because I love talking to people, I love getting to know people, then my profile is very important to me. And I don't mean that in a way that, you know, I pretend to be something I'm not. I don't. But I think it's important that you do understand the business, understand the culture, and make sure that you attempt to fit in, but not go in with all guns firing and do it very quickly. I think you've got to take it steadily when you go into a new business.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I like the idea of understanding the ecosystem that you find yourself in, and
Yeah.
then leveraging, I'm assuming, is where you're about to go. How do we leverage that knowledge then to create that positive profile? And for me, a sustainable lifelong habit. I think people often forget that that's something we need to do continuously throughout our career.
Yes, I think so. And I think that really important to me personally is my reputation.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes in. I have to have people understand who I am and what I'm trying to achieve in a business. But my reputation has to be number one for me. I cannot be seen as not, um, I cannot be seen as trying to be something that I'm not. I have to build a reputation, build my profile, and ensure that people feel they can trust me and be confident to come to me because of my career in HR. I guess I've had to make sure that happens. But I think to build it in a sustainable way, and not, not sort of blow my own trumpet, but I think that I have been able to do that because people know that they can trust me and I'm loyal to the business when I'm working for the business. And even when I leave the business, even when I've had bad experiences with people and leave the business, I'm always loyal to that business.
Yeah.
I very, it, I try very hard not to criticize a business, even if the things haven't gone very well for the business or for me. So I think it's important to have that reputation, that trust, and be confident, to be in that business and build your reputation.
Yeah. It's
Mm,
I love the language that you're using around this, loyalty, understanding the business, authenticity, and that whole concept that I think women often forget. Women create these two personas a lot, this home
mm,
persona and the work persona, and I believe that takes an amazing amount of energy to maintain, and that
mm,
there's a lot to be said for, particularly for women, in melding those two personas and
mm.
creating that authentic self. Is that where you're headed with your thinking there?
Yes, it is. It's complicated because I've been
Yeah.
into businesses where I don't understand the business.
Yeah.
I've had this thought of, oh, I want to go into white collar and away from blue collar, and things like that, just to improve my career. I think,
Yeah.
but I've gone into businesses where I don't understand what they're doing. I don't have a clue, and it's it is challenging to do that and to mix with people who work in a professional sense that I don't understand. And the challenges have been quite incredible for me to actually get down to the nitty gritty and understand what people are doing, because I don't think you can go in and pretend you're somebody else and you know what they're doing. I've actually gone out to certain businesses to work and studied some of their basic professional certificates, so I
Okay.
understand them a little bit better, because I will not be two-faced with people. If I don't understand what they're doing, I will ask them to explain it to me.
Yeah.
And
Which is
people
again
respect
that
that.
genuineness, that authenticity.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time, and here's a perfect example that it isn't esoteric, that even as simple as creating real relationships and real loyalty with the business, that's where you're positioning that. I
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. I think that's a really it's a clever way of positioning it. And not many people talk about businesses and loyalty, I have to say, um, because we're in pretty much a throwaway society. And post the pandemic, people are much quicker to move on from organisations. So I think even if you're in an organisation for a short time, that loyalty and understanding the business still is key to you creating your workplace profile.
Yes, I
Like,
think so. And I my first job in the world, when I left school and college, and whatnot, was for 15 years,
yeah,
and I thought I'd be there forever.
exactly. A
Um,
different world, wasn't it?
different world. And I came to Australia and I saw that, oh, if I get a job and I work very hard and I do what I want to do, I might be there 2 or 3 years, might be there
Yeah,
4 years,
yeah.
but I've not, it's not the same.
No.
And, but you still need to have the loyalty and understanding,
Yes,
even if
it's
you're
funny
2 years.
that. It's not the same, and yet the skill base and the cred build is
Mm,
identical to
yeah.
the experience that you had. And I suppose that's so. Let's be practical. How would you approach, not that we haven't been, but let's get even more practical. How would you
Mhm.
approach building a positive workplace profile? So what's worked for you, and what do you
Mm.
recommend to new female players?
Well, it's interesting you asked that because one of the businesses I joined were they hadn't had a very good experience with their HR team. Well,
Right,
team, 2 people. So when I joined them, I was on my own. The others has left. So
right.
I was, so I joined a business which had some serious problems and didn't actually think HR was very valuable, etc.
Right.
So I thought, oh, I've got a real challenge on here. This is a big one. But luckily, the CEO was new as well. So he and I were on the same page, fortunately. And he said to me, just run with it, just do whatever you think is the right thing to do. So that's similar to what I said before. I started to try and understand the business first and what the people were doing in that business. It was a complicated um, business. I won't say who it was, obviously, but it was a complicated business which I didn't understand what the professionals actually did in the business. So I first thought, right, let's get to know people. Obviously, that's my skill area. I love getting to know people. Um, and what I did, the first thing I did was create an onboarding program for new people coming in because I felt that was really important that they got to know the business and they got to know me. They got to know what they could sort of deal with when they had problems or they wanted to grow their careers or whatever they wanted. And I built this really good onboarding experience. And I got all
Interesting
the
because,
managers.
sorry, Kathy, I was just, my brain
Yeah,
was
yeah,
going then, and I
yeah.
was thinking,
Go ahead.
a lot of people when they join organisations turn off around that onboarding process and tune out. And what you're saying is don't do that, because the
No,
value add from there is an understanding of the business that will hold you in future stead.
yeah.
Yeah,
And you're in front of those people, the new
yeah,
people coming in to
yeah,
create impression.
yeah.
And that means that, and I forced every single manager come to that
Of course.
onboarding. I did. And, after a little while, after a few months, they loved it. They
Yeah.
absolutely loved doing it. And I think my reputation grew because of that, because they'd never experienced it before. So it was a new experience.
But
And
if
I
we,
even took them all out for dinner, the new people, with a couple of the managers. We took them out every onboarding program. We took them out in a social situation and it just builds that reputation that you have and
yeah,
it helps people join a business and realize that there's somebody with a face that
yeah.
cares, and it's all about that in the end, isn't it?
It is, and it's not the onboarding process though. So
No.
for me, what I'm hearing are the underpinning skills that you're glossing over because you see them as inherent to self. And they're the ones I'd really like to uncover. So there's a number of things that you said there. One is that you were intentionally creating trust with people,
Mm.
that you were intentionally influencing for good, not evil, influencing so that people were on a journey that would be positive and respectful for them. So we can do that without being in HR and without implementing an onboarding process, can't we?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. And it's all about, I guess, one-on-one conversations with people. That I'm not. I like groups, I like teams, but one-on-one is far, far more important to me. And as you know, that's my business now. It's
Business.
one-on-one conversations with people. But even when I was in a group environment, and I grew my team in that particular business to several people, but it's always those one-on-one conversations and being honest with people and telling them your good and bad stories. It's all about storytelling and making sure that people understand that you are a human wherever you work or whatever. I was in sales and marketing for 15 years. That's another story. But I think, it's all about, I guess, helping people understand that you're genuine
Yeah,
and that you want to get to know them. And then your natural reputation builds from that, I believe.
I believe it does too. I also am ruminating on something that I've thought about, which is that women consistently measure themselves against other people and always find themselves lacking. And rather than backing themselves and moving forward, that they seek confirmation from other people. So part of this profile is that you mentioned the word confidence before, is that understanding of self and being able to be clear around who you are and what value you add. Is that
Mm, I
does that
agree.
ring with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know you'll not believe this because you've known me for a very long time, but I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have that confidence when I emigrated
Yeah.
because I lost my confidence during having children time
Yes.
and not working for a few
Yeah.
years.
Mhm.
I came to Australia to start a new career, and look, didn't know a soul. Had to start at the very base of getting to know people,
Yeah.
and it was really tough. And I didn't have very much confidence, and I was deliberate, if you
Mm.
like, in building.
No, I love that word.
Yeah, I was.
I think it's
I
what women don't do. Women aren't deliberate about this, that a lot of it they just allow to happen without making that
Mm,
strategic decision. So I'm pleased you used that word.
very important. And you may think it's a bit tough of me, but I deliberately went out because I was middle aged when I
Yeah.
got here, and I knew that I had to prove myself. Because I came here without a university degree. I just had 15 years work experience in a fabulous job and ended up as a manager and all that jazz. But I knew I had to prove myself here.
Yeah.
So I went out. I was unsuccessful dozens of times with jobs. I
Mm.
applied for 120 jobs, and I still have a book with every single job I applied for. And I
Thank
had a
you.
few. Yeah, I had a few interviews, only a few interviews,
Yep.
and I ended up in a very low level role as a receptionist in a factory, and I was advised by a wonderful, wonderful recruiter: start on the bottom rung. It's the only way you're going to get known. And she said, within 6 months, you'll be at the top of that ladder. And she was right. And I worked really hard, and I got to know a few people, did my networking,
Yep.
and I ended up in a very, very good role. And that was the beginning of my HR career.
Love it. See, credibility, workplace credibility has to be based on what you say. So it has to be based on around behaviors. So
Absolutely.
so what you're saying is you're conscious of your behaviors, you're deliberate around the impact that you create with other people, and that
Yes,
you're focused around those relationships.
absolutely.
They don't just happen, and it's not just a chat. That there's I
Mm.
love deliberate, I'm gonna be using that a lot now. It's a deliberate choice, around engaging with people in a way that facilitates a long-term authentic relationship. Let's go there. Let's talk
Let's
about
go there.
what that is.
When I say deliberate, it's deliberately genuine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, that authenticity needs to be there. That approach, being yourself, and
Yeah,
the best
'cause people
version of
see through it, don't
yourself.
they?
People know
But people,
instantly if you're not.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. So no, it's been a great journey. I mean, I can't tell you enough about how wonderful it's been in Australia. Australia has given me opportunities I didn't have in the UK.
Yeah.
Mm.
However, you've
However,
you've taken those opportunities. So
yes,
so
I have.
part of these conversations are for new players, and for women who are returning to work
Mm,
to talk about how do we boost that? How we have skills. How do
mm,
we translate those into the workplace so that they become the foundational skills that we need to be those lifelong habits that create that successful career? So you've mentioned two things that I'd love to follow up on. One is trust-based relationships, and the other one is networking. Now, I know you're a networking guru. I have experienced that. And I know that your networking's based on trust relationships,
mm.
and long-term sustainable relationships. And you've already mentioned loyalty. So all of these words, I'd love to hear from you something around why is this important? Why are those trust-based relationships important? Why is networking important? How do they come together? And then we perhaps will get down to some practical tips that you'd like to share with our listeners.
Well, I don't think this is absolutely honest, I don't think I could have done what I've done and what I've achieved if I hadn't had trust-based relationships
Yeah.
and really worked very, very hard at networking. Because what do you want to be? Sitting on your own in a room? No, I don't want to be doing that. You know, there's lots of people that love roles and careers sitting on their own in a room,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That is not me.
Mm,
I believe that you should share your experiences and share your knowledge and listen and help people to talk about their experiences and their skills. And I learn from them, they learn from me. That's how it's all about sharing. And without networking, you can't do that. You
mm,
cannot do that. And you stay in that little enclave of your bubble. That is not what you do to develop your career and develop ongoing relationships. You've got to break the bubble and step outside of it.
mm.
That's how I operate, I guess. And it's not easy.
No.
It's very difficult. And I've been in situations with very, very, very senior people in business, right up there. And I walk in a room and I'm scared to death, to be honest, at first. But once you actually walk into a room, shake hands with somebody, get to talk to them, you realize they're just human as well.
Mm,
In my early days of trying to meet people here, but they're just humans and they just want to talk about themselves.
mm,
And they want to ask you questions. And there it starts off. You know, it's all about getting to know people and understanding what they want. But it's not an easy thing to do.
it's
And lots of people
definitely
don't
not.
like. I have dragged some of my mentees, I call them, who I've mentored over the years, I've dragged them into networking sessions
Yeah.
because they don't want to do it. And I've sort of held their hand, not physically, but
So what's the
I've,
value? What's the value of putting yourself out there, going outside that bubble that you so eloquently described, going outside the bubble? What's the value in that networking?
well, the value is okay if you want to not grow your career, grow your experiences. The value is to meet others, to listen what others are doing, to get out there and make sure that you have those really good, solid, sustainable relationships with people. Otherwise, as I say, you might as well just sit at home and work online. And that's not what I do. I mean, I do work online, but it's not what I enjoy doing the best. I enjoy getting out and actually being with people one on one
Yeah.
because it's really important, you know, to have those relationships for the future. I have had relationships with people, you know, a little bit, a few events here and there and the other. A couple of years later, somebody's rung me and they said, I remember meeting you at so and so, and you said you do this, that, and the other. And I've got your card. Would you like to come and have a chat about so and so? That's how important and valuable it is. It's about building those future relationships, if you like. It's really very valuable.
I call it future proofing, and I think
Yes.
it's what people forget with networking. So I think they forget a couple of things. One is that post pandemic, people are very quick to move on and to move into different areas and to follow dreams and to follow their skills, if you like, follow their
Mm,
strengths, which I think is fantastic.
mm, mm.
You don't do that in a vacuum. You
No.
don't do that in that bubble, and that's what those networks can create for you. So, I mean, I know you've reinvented yourself quite a number of times, including Kathy's also a marriage celebrant of seriously, all sorts of different roles.
Mm,
None
mm,
all of that's possible through the relationships that you create,
mm, mm,
because when you're sharing, you talked about sharing and listening, people wanna talk about themselves.
mm,
When we
mm,
ask those questions, we're learning more about the other person, but we're also creating that strong relationship with that person.
mm. Absolutely.
That's the future proofing piece that I think people forget about.
I think so. And, it sounds ridiculous. And your listeners, and you may not believe, well, you may believe it, but your listeners might not. I have very rarely had to look for a new career or a new job or a new role.
Mm.
People have come to me.
Yeah.
That's because of networking, nothing else. That's because I've built a reputation around what I've achieved and my networking. I met people and they've rung me up and I've got another job, a better job. I've climbed the ladder. And I did it deliberately because I knew that starting a new career in your middle age is quite difficult because you've not had any experience
Yeah.
and you've not had the foothold in the country as well that I didn't have.
Mm.
And really, networking's been number one for me. It's been the only way that I've been able to move up that ladder and, obviously do a good job as well, but move up the ladder and get to where I wanted to be,
Yeah.
which was eventually be a career coach and a celebrant. Those are my two dream careers, and I've got them.
Got both
And
of them, and you're doing really well in both of them. And
yeah,
I I hear where the pathways lead, and I
mm,
know that you have been deliberate, let's use that word. You have been deliberate around networking. New players often talk about, well, LinkedIn's the place. So long as your profile's right on LinkedIn, you'll be okay. Sure. And if you add to that the rich and tapestry of network and
mm,
people who understand you and value your skills and yourself, that creates the richness whereby you're just hearing about roles through other people. Like
that's right.
it sounds really simple, and my brain always goes, look, it is simple. It just takes some thought and deliberate action on your part to make all this happen. So if we're talking about future proofing your career, we're talking then, as you've just said, about understanding business, remaining
Mm,
authentic, sharing and listening, because storytelling's part of that. Allow others to talk about themselves, and you
yeah.
can't do any of that without going outside your bubble
Mm,
and forcing yourself into those networking events that not
mm,
everyone enjoys doing.
yeah, yeah,
It
that's right.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think it's important to actually know what you want out of your life
Yeah,
and know what you want out of your career.
yeah.
And I think that's number one. Obviously, you've got to sit down and think about that. And I've seen young university students hop from one degree to another because they've done a year and they think, oh, I don't want to be a psychologist. I want to be a marketing executive. You know, I've literally done that with people.
Yeah.
They've swapped. And that's okay because as you grow into maturity, you change your mind about things. I have.
Yes.
But I think the main thing is to think about what you want and then go out and go to the right events and the right conferences and the right seminars and the right meetings that are going to suit your desires for your career and your life.
We'll help that.
Um, not just waste your time doing something else. Yeah.
Sound advice, Kathy Dodd. Thank you so much. I know that this has been quick,
Uh,
but we'll be having you back again on Boost Talk. Never you mind about that. Um,
Good.
they're excellent suggestions, and anyone who's looking to future-proof their career would be well advised to have a listen. So thank you so much for joining Boost Talk today.
Well,
And
thank you.
we'll be seeing you in the future. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Louise.
Hello, Louise Phelan here, and you've been listening to yet another Boost Talk, and I know you loved it. These women are being so generous with their time and their experience and their expertise, and it's great to have their perspective on their career enhancement strategies for women in this post-pandemic hybrid workplace that we find ourselves in. So for more information, head on over to our website, boostyourcareer.com.au, and I'll see you there.